Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This is John with Flippin' Ain't Easy, and today I'm out here in my garage again. A lot of you guys like that format, so not going to be the only format that we utilize in these videos, but if you guys like it, we're going to keep doing it. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. So look, lots to say here, both about my business and stuff that I guess you could say is maybe none of my business, but talk about it anyway. So an update on my business part, have yet another carload of stuff that we went and picked up today. Wednesdays are day to pick up liquidation. So we have about 50 pieces in the car. Have a lot of stuff here that I've got to go through and part out, which I haven't gotten through yet. It's sort of a pain point for me, but I need to find the time to do that. Have a number of items that I just need to get to in the storage unit still that I really need to make a trip probably after making this video over there to maybe pick up another carload of stuff that needs to go out for large item pickup. Now, these are items that were in the pallets, numerous pallets. I mean, I say 6 pallets. It may have been a couple more than that. But when you're buying unmanifested pallets, you don't know what's in there, and you have a general idea for the price point that you're getting. You're taking that risk, but you don't really know, how many items are broken. Like I had 3 big sinks. Like, what are you doing selling sinks? They were just in the pallet, but 3 of the 4 were broken. I have one here in great condition, excellent condition. I'm going to get that thing listed here. Really, it's just a matter of getting that storage unit ready. I have opportunity every 2 weeks to get the trash out of there, and I might make another trip out there today so that I can get it out on the street for tomorrow's pickup. So that's kind of what the plan is. But really, just grinding through Q4, doing our thing, and trying to minimize the distractions that come with Q4. We have friends coming in beginning of December for Cowboy Christmas. We have quite a few friends coming out for about 10 days. Of course, while we can't spend the entire time with them, we do spend a good chunk of that time. So I do everything that I can to keep the business flowing, per se, and it works most of the time. Now, last year and the year before that, we haven't had a very strong Q4. And so this channel is really about telling you about our struggles, our successes, and just how we're making it work. How is it that we are able to, live a full life and not struggle, and just we're resellers. We don't really do a whole lot to supplement the income. Now, we do have some side business stuff that I was able to do for part of the year. It's because of the tariffs and stuff like that. It has affected that. So that's kind of gone away for now. Hopefully it's just a for now type of situation. So, we're making this work, and we're finding creative ways to get our second store with more success, rather than to just be a throwaway store where we just put the stuff that we don't want on the main account. We're turning that into a place where we're getting more out of it than we were before. And in fact, it was just an afterthought. If we had time for it, we'd take time for it. But there's many days that have gone by the last couple years, and even into this year, with that store, where if we have time to part stuff out, then we will. If we don't, then we don't. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. That I want constant activity. Now, I want to talk about some things that have been said, not necessarily about me, but just in general about YouTube resellers and what we represent and all that. But one misconception, and there's some misconceptions too. There's this creator, his name is, and he's done a piece on me before. His name is Mason T, otherwise known as Pegasus Lounge. And he does a lot of videos. And while he does mix in some teaching content, I'll say, on his channel, those don't tend to do as well. And I guess it's one of those things where you kind of just keep doubling down on the things that work, which is sort of, for the lack of a better term, just crapping all over resellers. And I just really don't understand why, to be honest with you. I every time I see his videos pop up, and by the way, I'm out here working while I'm talking to you, so it may, if I'm not looking at the camera, I do apologize, but it's part of the format where I really need to get some stuff done, and I'm out here talking to you. But the format of the videos are just, it comes across to me as being very disingenuous. And we as YouTubers already get blamed for almost everything we do as being for clicks, right? Now, of course, we want people to watch our channel, right? If it's organic, this is just my opinion, by the way. I mean, this is just how I feel. I feel like if you have something to say that's organic, and maybe you have some clickbaity titles, maybe you have your thumbnail that's a little bit clickbaity, but if it supports what you're saying, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Now, I'm not saying that this Mason T is doing that. I'm saying that it doesn't come off as genuine because, and he has said it himself, and I agree with this notion. If you are into private labeling and that type of thing, if you're finding other ways to get your grind on, nothing wrong with that. But you can't call yourself a reseller if you're not a reseller. Furthermore, it's crazy to me how people can critique a reseller if you're not a reseller. You're not going to see one bit of content from me bad mouthing the strategies or the mindset of someone who does private labeling. Now, I have back in the day, this is back in 2017 when I delved into drop shipping, when I actually had a career. I was running my own department. And I did this on the side, right? I've always enjoyed selling on eBay, but at the time it was just a side gig and I didn't have the kind of time to go out and source. And so I dove into the drop shipping thing, which is kind of taboo on eBay. It's frowned upon on eBay. But I was also looking into things like private labeling. Okay. And it's easy for someone to come into the reselling world who is a, let's say, private labeler, maybe have had some success in private labeling, and maybe just say how, well, it's not as good of a business model as what I'm able to get into. But there's a reason why I never got into private labeling, and the reason is are all the things that you read where people would spend thousands of dollars getting product designed. Maybe they designed a product. Maybe they'd come up with ideas for product. They'd send it in, right? They'd have a factory in China. They'd work a deal out with AliExpress or whatever. And they'd have the stuff sent directly to Amazon, and they'd have it put up on FBA. That's Fulfillment by Amazon. That's, many of you guys who buy on Amazon know, where you're buying directly through Prime versus buying from a buyer or a seller who's shipping it to you from their home or their warehouse or wherever. So the horror stories that I read, it's like, man, I can maybe invest $10,000 into some product and have this have this shipped into Amazon. I have some really good private label ideas. And private label is, by the way, you design a product, you name the product, you're developing your own brand. But the many horror stories that I would read, where one strategy in private label is you would find a product that had good sales, but didn't have very good reviews. You'd read the reviews, and then you would go in and fix whatever those problems were with that product. And then you'd sell it, of course, with the high demand. And that was a cool strategy. But the last thing that you want to have is, if you're the seller of the first product, you don't want the new and improved item to kill your sales. And also, Amazon is known for finding items and pretty much putting their label on it and killing your sales, basically taking the buy box and all that. Now, I'm not going to dive into Amazon on this video, but I say all this to say most sellers of eBay products, most people who sell on eBay, don't have a clue what goes into private labeling. Okay, there's so many things that someone in the private label industry they have to navigate and be aware of, and there's a fine line between success and making a ton of money and losing a lot of money. So there's a lot more risk involved. And I'm sure Mr. Lounge will, offer you his course to show you, maybe where I'm wrong in some of my statements about private label. But that was my understanding back in 2017 and 2018 when I was actually looking into that as maybe a place to put some money and to invest some of I can't even speak, some of my money at the time. For someone like me, as a reseller, with that very, very, very limited knowledge, 2017, 2018 knowledge, which could very well be outdated by now, to come in and make videos about, let's say he's doing some courses, maybe he's doing some training videos about private label, and for me to go on and make a video to say how, his model is just full of shit and crapping on him and, what he says and twisting his words like he's done to me. I think it just comes off as very disingenuous. For someone who, from what I understand, isn't an eBay seller, there's so many aspects to reselling to make this thing work. To say that your way is better as a private label person over a reseller who has made it work, has shown how it works, and has a livelihood because it works is just crazy to me. How someone could, it's like me saying that, private label can't work. How do you know that? You've never done it yourself. Now, I know that there's a lot of YouTubers out there who, I'll just say it, run very kind of shoddy businesses. It's just like there's no rhyme or reason. They're going to go to a yard sale and pick up this and pick up that and pick up this. There's no written SOP. There's no processes that they're dealing with. It's just they're winging things, right? And we talk about that all the time on this channel, how you really need to have these processes in place so that you can have more predictability in your results. And the more predictable you are, the more regimented your schedule is, and the more consistent you are, the more consistent your sales are going to be. And really it boils down to one thing. I mean, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to become a millionaire? No one's that I know of has become a millionaire simply by reselling. Not a one man, maybe even a mom and pop type shop where you're working out of your home and you simply don't have staff, you don't have overhead. And if you have those things, it makes it more challenging because you have more expenses that you have to overcome. So for those of us who sell at home, and for those of us who sell, whether it's just us or maybe our significant other that's helping us, we're doing what works for our situation. Okay, so maybe for some it's supplementing income, maybe they work a 9 to 5, and for others this is our full-time job. And while we're not trying to get rich, we're trying to be able to pay our bills and to put a little bit of money aside. That's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot of glamour in that, but that's just what the grind is, and that's our grind, and we've been able to make it work. Now, there's been a number of questions. I've watched a couple of those videos that I've talked about. And there's been some questions that I kind of felt the need to answer. Now, I'm not here to speak up for James Helferstay. All all truth be told, I'll tell you, I don't even think the guy likes me. I know he watches my channel, but I've reached out a couple times in support to some of the things that he's going through, and I get like a thanks reply, or really, it's not like it's like I'm bothering the guy. So I leave that alone. I think he's a nice guy. I still see his videos pop up on my screen. I'll watch him from time to time. And I'll offer words of encouragement when it's appropriate, because I think that's the cool thing about this whole community, is that we offer words of encouragement. We don't go and shit on each other, though. And that's the thing I have a problem with the whole Pegasus Lounge thing. I think on the surface, he probably is a nice guy, but I think he's rubbing people the wrong way, because even he himself has said numerous times he's misunderstood. He feels like he's being misunderstood, but he's creating that. Okay. If he was, first of all, I don't even know why he's in the conversation. Why he needs to be the one or the voice that will critique resellers when he doesn't know half of the pain points that resellers go through. And he's trying to make sense as someone would on the outside of what resellers go through. But until you go through it yourself as a reseller, you really don't fully understand it. And you'll continue to have these questions. It's the same thing as if you as a reseller meet somebody for the first time and they ask you, well, what do you do for a living? And you say, oh, I'm a reseller. And they look at you like you are like almost homeless when you tell them that. You get this look like, that's it. I mean, that's not very impressive. But, if you go further and show them, like, I make, X thousand per month, then it becomes a little bit more impressive. Like, wow, I didn't know you can make that type of money, right? So there's a lot of assumptions that non-resellers have about resellers that I think come into play here with some of these videos. Now, like on Pegasus Lounge, his followers may be just entrepreneurs. I don't know who they are. I wonder how many of them actually are eBay resellers and actually know the answers to these questions. But the answers to some of these questions are somewhat simple. Now, in one of the videos that he came out with when he was kind of hammering on daily refinement, tech and sports, a couple others, he said, what do you do with the items that don't sell? It's a fair question, right? The problem is, it's step one. That's the most important step. And that's your sourcing. Now, you're not just going to go to a yard sale and buy just random stuff. You're going to make sure that you are focusing in on things that have previous activity, previous solds. Okay, and that's using the 90-day solds. That's using TerraPeak, which is now known as product research on eBay. Using those tools to find out if this item is worth your time. Now, if you have no sales in 90 days, some of it can boil down to, well, is this a collector's item? If it's a collector's item, if it's an antique, if it's something that is very rare or there's very few of, you're probably not going to see that type of information available to you. And you're going to need to really know a lot about that niche, or maybe even talk to somebody in the know before you take that step to buy that item to resell it. That's not my jam. I don't deal with stuff that's collectible. I don't deal with stuff that there's a very good chance that it's a one of one or a very, very small produced type item. I'm dealing with stuff that's mass produced. I'm dealing with customer returns. Liquidation is what I usually deal with, and my occasional yard sale I'll go to. But I'm always finding that I'm looking at the sold comps. I'm looking at TerraPeak up to the last 3 years to see what this item's selling for. And then I need to compare that to the risk. What's the risk? Well, how much are you going to spend on this item? What are you going to be on the hook for? So if it's an item maybe that's sold once in 90 days, I usually will walk away. But if it's an item that's sold for $300 and I can get it for $1 or $2, which happens a lot, I will take that risk. It's a risk that usually pays off. It's a calculated risk. And I think sometimes in business, you have to take calculated risk. And there is something called loss when you're dealing with business. the calculated risk of having a brick and mortar, and the calculated risk of having all your stuff on the counter versus locked up behind a key. Like there's a lot of Walmarts out here. A lot of the stuff out here in Vegas is behind lock and key. You have to get someone to help you get that stuff to the counter before you can go buy it. You can't. They won't even let you put it in your cart, or they'll give you a little clear box with an alarm on it. It's crazy. But Walmart and other brick and mortars have tried to figure out ways to minimize loss. And as resellers, when you're buying an item, you have to figure out ways to minimize that loss. And one way, and we're dealing with figures, dollar figures, right? So if your loss potentially is $1, that's easier to justify than if your loss could be $10 to $20 for that same item. Now, using that data, if you do all the steps right, so you buy it, it's in good condition, it's a great price point, you've seen the previous activity, and then you do all the things that we kind of talk about on this channel and others on their channels. You do all the best practices, then over time, that item will eventually sell. It could be overnight. It could be within months. It could take a year or two. But I can tell you, I have bought thousands of items. I have bought thousands of items through liquidation pallets. I've bought thousands of items through individual liquidation. I've bought hundreds of items through yard sales. And I can tell you that maybe I come across one or two items that just simply, no matter what I do, does not sell. And if you consider that represents a very, very small, like 0.0001% of what I'm buying, it's really not that big of a loss. It's really not. There's a better chance of you buying something that sells all the time. Let's say an iPhone that sells. If you do everything right with the listing, it's going to sell. And there's a better chance that someone's going to scam you and send you an actual brick back in the mail for that item than me not selling an item that I buy, because I'm that meticulous about what I'm buying before I pull the trigger. And there's a formula that I have here in my head. You can call it an unwritten SOP, standard operating procedures, or a process that I follow, and it works very, very well. Now, this Mason also said, and he seems to question this whole idea that, or the phrase that you make money on the buy. Now, that is more a figure of speech than anything else. Okay. But what essentially it means is that you've put yourself in the very, very best position through that purchase to not only sell it quickly, but at as high of a profit point margin that you can after all your fees and the time, effort, energy, you name it, that's going to be into that product. Okay. And the better position you put yourself in when you're buying that item to resell, the higher you rank on you make money on the buy. Okay. So that's kind of what it is. It isn't you have somebody that's in the car and you're at the yard sale. They're telling you, hey, go buy that item. I'll give you $20. And you're going to go buy it for 10 and do a quick $10 flip. That's not what you make money on the buy is. You make your money on the buy as your strategy is on how you buy that stuff is going to reflect on how much you're going to make once you put all these processes into play. And there's so many people that come to me and say, I've done everything that everyone's told me to do. I do everything right, but I can't sell this thing. And I look at them and I go, but did you apply all the best practices when you're buying that item? Because I wouldn't have bought that item. The solds don't support that. The information here on TerraPeak and eBay research doesn't support you buying that. So you can make the fluffiest, nicest, most attractive listing with the best pricing and still have trouble selling things that you thought was going to sell, but the information in the solds just doesn't support it. The data doesn't support that being a good item to resell. And I've always said, when it comes to liquidation, like 90% of liquidation isn't worth buying for resale. Okay. And that's something, if you've watched my liquidation video that has over 100,000 views, it is my strongest video to date, 130,000 views or whatever. Pretty much don't buy liquidation until you watch this video. There's a lot of strong points in there, but 90% of liquidation, you just have to pass. I don't care how attractive the item is. I don't care how familiar you are to that item. If the market isn't there for it, you're going to, step one, already have barriers that you've created because you did not make money on the buy. You just bought without considering that. So that's my interpretation. Maybe you guys have a different interpretation on that. So there's arguments that seem illogical, like Mason or Pegasus Lounge says, well, this whole idea that if you list 100 items on Saturday versus listing those 100 items, spread them out across the week, it's illogical to him how people will do that, spread it out across the week instead of just listing them all in one pop. And of course, this is a statement that in my mind comes from someone who's not a reseller, who hasn't seen the results of these actions firsthand, and actually have talked and spoke to many people who have listed once a week and transformed to listing throughout the week and have seen a difference. And really, you're just playing to the algorithm. If you think about it, if you list 100 items on Saturday versus stringing it out throughout the week, you might have a buyer who's looking for an item that on Monday who won't see it because you're listing it on Friday. I get it. I get it. But I'd say that the way eBay's algorithm is tailored, it wants consistent activity. Now, does that mean that you're listing every day? No, it doesn't. And eBay's even said that. But eBay still wants that activity of account maintenance, maybe going in and altering or editing listings throughout the week. So maybe you only can list once a week. But it's my experience that adding new items that have that new listing tag next to the title, introducing new items daily, it does give a boost to your entire store. And there's the idea that you also are, getting rid of the bad items and you're just putting in stuff that has good conversion rate. They do track your store's conversion rate. And I'm telling you, if you clear out the stuff that is holding back your store, like the stuff that's been sitting there that you shouldn't have bought in the first place, it can help your conversion rate for the rest of the store. And that's just, maybe it's anecdotal. Maybe that's the reason why people don't like to hear what I have to say, because I'm just telling you based on my experience many, many times over, and many, many people who've commented on my videos, they, have tried some of the same things that I've tried, and they've come to the same conclusions as a result, that if you're not a reseller, you wouldn't be able to form those conclusions because, quite frankly, they're probably not all that logical on the surface. The last thing is, and this is kind of like, why did I get drug into this? The video that was done, the piece that was done on James Helferstay was talking about where the question that he initially posed when he did the hit piece on me, that I believe it was Tommy Z who was watching, had asked, like, where are you buying the inventory that basically, where are you buying this stuff at that other people wouldn't just sell it themselves? That's a fair question, but if you consider that there's companies out here that I do business with locally that are into catering to resellers, they're into catering to people who aren't resellers that want just a good deal on something, just no different than going to a yard sale. They sell these individual liquidation items starting at $1, and you just bid on these things, and at the time the auction's over with, the best price wins, and you go get it. It's that simple. These people they don't have a reason to cherry pick because they're buying truckloads upon truckloads upon truckloads of this liquidation merchandise, and their business model is just churning it out, just churning it out. They run literally, some of these places, there's a couple big ones that I go to, they literally run like 20, 30,000 auctions per night, individual pieces. And it's a tough gig to try to navigate through all that, right? I'm not going to give that information to people. It's one of the secrets, if you want to call it that no reseller should share. I did a video on this. No reseller should talk about where they get their stuff. There's no bigger mistake in reselling than to talk about where you get your stuff. It's no different than Mr. Mason T coming out with the video saying, here's where I buy my white label stuff. Here's who I do business with. And you should not only do business with them, but you should also design a product much like what I sell. What do you think that's going to do for his business? Not very good. And that's why I don't share where I buy my stuff. I think it's just the biggest mistake that resellers will ever make who do YouTube videos, is to share that information. It's like when Beard did his video on the monopoly for millennials many, many years ago. He got millions of views, but he told everyone, where he got them and all that, but not until his market dried up, which is pretty smart, and got a lot of people pissed off at him. But really, if there's one thing that we can't do for you as YouTube influencers, is to tell you, where to buy. I mean, you might come across videos that say, oh, Bolo this. Well, it's just because that person got lucky at a yard sale. They probably can't find ways to replicate that success again. And if they could, they're not going to share it with you. So look, there's positives to doing the whole white label thing. I'm not going to sit here and crap on it. It just wasn't for me. I realized that the most repeatable process I can do is to find sources that are going to every day be able to have product. And I go and do my very best to take all the information and to make good buying decisions, which will then translate into me making money on eBay. The most important step, you make money on the buy because you're doing the right thing the first time. And here I get a message from somebody wanting to know. We had a pretty good sales day today. Pretty spotty this week, but I've been very removed from a lot of the business from being sick last week. Also, putting up that shed was not fun. You guys saw the video I put out yesterday. Go check that out. And really, I'm just kind of winding my day down talking to you guys. And look, I just want to say this. I have no ill will towards Mason T, Pegasus Lounge. Like I said, he's probably a good guy and real person. I just think like he says, and I agree with him, that he's probably misunderstood, but I think he created that misunderstanding. Nothing against James Helferstay. He put out a video about a month ago critiquing my business without really understanding my business. Nothing against him. I've reached out to him with nothing but well wishes and got kind of like the invisible middle finger back, but that's fine. I'm just me trying to be friendly and trying to make friends. And if there's no friendship there, that's not on me. I've done my part. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I found myself like, why are they talking about me in this video? Or why is my, the question that Tommy Z asked me even a part of this discussion in Pegasus Lounge's last video? And I was like, okay, I want out of this. I really don't want that kind of spotlight. Look, no reseller that's doing YouTube videos wants to be critiqued and shit on. I mean, if I'm saying something that's wrong, tell me in the comments, right? I mean, you can even make a video about it if it's true. But if you're going to twist my words and say something that puts something into context that I've never said, and I was just answering a question which is one unrelated to my business, then you bring that information and highlight that information in a way that makes the YouTube creator look bad. That's problematic, and it's not the business I want to get into, and it's really the business that I would urge anyone to stay out of. And if you have good information, so maybe this is my parting statement to Mr. Mason, and that is, if you have a good message, then build your channel off of that message. If you think that you are going to somehow get resellers over to the white label model that you say is so much better, and maybe in your position it's so much better, um, maybe there's more intangibles involved than just making money. I think James tried to say this as well, but maybe there's some more things involved than just making money that drive people and attract people to reselling on eBay that you will maybe never understand as a non-reseller looking in. And so if you're watching my videos, if you're watching those videos, just keep that in mind, that a lot of these videos are being created from uh, not to say that he's not an entrepreneur, but the grind isn't the same. And to say that your way is better without knowing the other way, you've not been there, you haven't lived your life as a reseller, then you really don't have a whole lot of credibility to stand on when it comes to most people who are paying attention. Okay. And some people get confused by it. Maybe will stray off of a path that is promising. And I'm not saying everyone should go out and resell on eBay. Everyone's got to figure out what that path is. But to say, it's not sustainable is just a huge lie. And it's not being honest. And to me, look, I love the community. We have our live streams on Mondays and Fridays. And what drives me is the community. I was supposed to go out Friday to, we have this meeting for our tournament club. We have a golf tournament that we run every year out in Arizona. And I'm on the board, right? So we have what we call directors. So there's like 6 or 7 of us, and we run this whole thing. There's like 100 golfers that go out, and we run it to really make it a good experience. And they're like, hey, come on Friday, and you could stay at our house, and we're gonna go play a round of golf on Saturday and have our meeting after we're done. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that, because that means that I wouldn't be able to do the live stream on Friday, and I would feel bad about that. So I am just going to get up, drive at 4:30 in the morning, straight to the golf course. We're going to play a round of golf, have our meeting, and I'm coming home. That's a 4-hour drive each way. Just the way it is. I might be insane for doing that, but I'm going to do that. That's kind of how I'm going to roll. So simply because we've already missed one live when I was sick a couple weeks ago. And my goal is to try to build up this community, for like-minded resellers that may be totally different in what we do. Maybe we sell different things, maybe sell on different platforms, but we buy similarly. Maybe we have questions about reselling that, we bounce questions off of each other. I've learned so much through the interaction through this community, more so than just watching simple YouTube videos as a reseller. Because I could have just been a reseller watching the YouTube videos like I was in 2019. But I really thought, and I really feel like this channel has provided a lot of good information for people. And there's been times that I've said things that are kind of off the wall, but I like to bounce ideas and think openly. And maybe I'm wrong, and I have no problem with being wrong. I think that's the great thing about this channel, and the great thing about a lot of the viewers who watch this channel. They understand that, and they're okay with it. So as long as they know my intentions are genuine. There are YouTube channels out there who are doing this for the quick buck, who are doing it for the views, who are doing it to supplement a very, very struggling business. And it's because they're probably not doing all the steps right. And, what can I say? I mean, we're all here grinding in our own way. Maybe it's just reselling, but for others, it's, bringing in YouTube and other ways to make money. And that's for each and every person to figure out. But my advice is only to those who are doing YouTube channels. Be genuine. I mean, look, if you don't need to fake who you are, just be who you are. And your audience will appreciate that more than you making content for the sake of views, but you're making stuff up along the way and pretending to be someone you're not. And in the end, it's all going to come out in the wash anyway. So that's why I firmly believe to not only be open and honest with you guys, but to give you probably more information than probably anyone has any business knowing, because I really want to be transparent when it comes to the information I'm giving. And if that just puts me in a negative light sometimes, then that's what happens. So with that said, I got absolutely nothing done in this video. Thank you very much. And so I'm going to finish up a few things and get some things done. Maybe go to a dinner and movie this evening with Jenna. And we'll see you on the next one. So no resellers were harmed in the making of this video. And I want you guys to have an excellent rest of your day. While you are there, please consider hitting the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that when we make a video like this or we go live, you're going to be notified. But figuring out all this, and look, who has time to watch all this drama on YouTube? We've got our businesses to run. But figuring all that out is yet another example of how flipping ain't easy. I want you guys to have an excellent rest of your day, and we will talk to you here very soon. Take care.
Oh. Chargebacks, returns, and lowball offers too. Vero takedowns, they're a pain, what can we do? High selling fees, bad buys, and rude buyers galore. Flipping ain't easy, but we keep coming back for more. All resellers are gonna make mistakes. Learn from them, and you'll have what it takes. In the world of reselling, we're your guide. We're flipping ain't easy, by your side. Sourcing great items is the key to success. Subscribe to the channel and stand above the rest. Focus on the thing that's within your control. Hang with flipping ain't easy, let's roll. Catch the live streams on Mondays and Fridays. Join the Discord community for the parlays. Tune into the podcast, Profit Playbooks, the name. With Scott and Josh, flipping's more than a game. Chargebacks, returns, and lowball offers too. A Fero takedowns, they're a pain, what can we do? High selling fees, bad buys, and rude buyers galore. Flipping ain't easy, but we keep coming back for more. Oh, all resellers are gonna make mistakes. Learn from them, and you'll have what it takes. In the world of reselling, we're your guide. Flipping ain't easy, but by your side. Sourcing great items is the key to success. Subscribe to the channel and stand above the rest. Focus on the thing that's within your control. Hang with flipping ain't easy, let's roll. Catch the live streams on Mondays and Fridays. Join the Discord community for the parlays. Tune into the podcast, Profit Playbooks, the name. With Scott and Josh, flipping's more than a game. Catch the live streams on Mondays and Fridays. Join the Discord community for the parlays. Tune into the podcast, Profit Playbooks, the name. With Scott and Josh. Flipping's more than a game.